Good Tuesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness, presented by the Yes Team Realtors. We're live in Charlottesville, across Charlottesville, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world, on the I Love CVille Network. Today's program, dynamic and interactive. You, the viewer and listener, can offer your perspective and change the pace and tempo of the show by sharing those thoughts in the comment section on any social media platform you are watching upon. Judah Wigcowers, the North Star, the compass, the man who holds us accountable, the director of the show. My friend, if you can go to the studio camera and welcome the distinguished gentleman, freshly vaccinated with the sticker on his lapel.
Proudly wearing it.
How are you, my friend?
You know, I'm showing everybody my sticker.
Great.
Everybody will
awesome.
Want to look at it. I tell my story. I'm proud to have it. I think we talked about this on Friday. I put that on par of me raising my right hand to swear allegiance to the United States government when I joined the Marine Corps. So get out there. If you're comfortable with it, go out there and get a shot. I want to shout out to Yolanda. That was a great show yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
I watched it nonstop. It was almost 2 hours, wasn't it?
Just under 2 hours.
Wow.
Longest show we've ever done.
Yeah, it was awesome. So great work. Love to bring her on anytime she wants to come on Real Talk.
I echo that. Lot to cover on today's program. The 10-year yield is upticking.
A little bit.
Doing 3 million vaccinations a day across the United States, which we're at an all-time high when it comes to vaccinations getting in people's arms. You got the NASDAQ volatile as all get out. You got the Dow Jones going north. We are at the end of the second quarter, the end of the first quarter. In fact, we have a day and a half left of Q1 2021.
So, like I said earlier in the intro, on the talk-in or the whatever the preamble of the show, we were supposed to have the folks from Jay Bird here. Unfortunately, there was a family emergency, so they couldn't join us. So today is kind of an open-ended topic. I kind of wanted to throw it out there to the feed and see if we can generate some conversation going along. Our premise or our topics for Tuesday is usually we're trying to focus on folks that give back to the community. But, we've been talking about this for several shows. This vibe just seems to be getting a little bit better out there. And just to kick off the conversation, we went to go see our good friend Vincent Zorn play the Vineyard Pippin.
Okay.
On Sunday, and they were packed. And we actually went out to Bebedero's on Monday, and they were packed again. So, it just seems like the vibe is getting a little bit better out there. So I just kind of wanted to toss that out there and see if others are feeling the same way or not, and see if we can chat a little bit about that.
We have been, family and I, the better half and I, let's see, what have we done, Lauren? We did Zocalo dinner this past Tuesday night. We did a Chim dinner on Saturday. Chim in
From Dairy Market.
Fifth Street Station. On Sunday, we had brunch at Three Notch, beverages at Cardinal Hall, and dinner at Dairy Market at Dino's, and beers and dessert at Star Hill and Muthru. Yesterday, what did we do yesterday? Yesterday, food-wise.
Is the in-laws still in town?
No, they've left. We eat out, every day. Every other day. Something along those lines.
Yeah, so that's starting to pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yonna and I didn't do that for, oh my God, almost 8 months a year. And that seems to be picking up a little bit, so much so we looked at our checking account and went, and it's making a dent, actually. We saved a substantial amount of money by not going out to eat, but we want to go ahead and support our local restaurants.
That's why we do it.
Yeah.
That's why we do it.
Totally.
One thing we noticed at Dairy Market was the hustle and bustle. We had activity.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to. And you put a better set of words to it. I'm talking vibe, and maybe that's a 1970s thing coming out. But the hustle and bustle, the vibe, it just kind of felt like it's just opening up a little bit. So we were super excited to see it on that end of it. And then, on the general real estate side of things, we had a home that went on the market last weekend that we had 25 folks come through. And, we talked about this on Friday. I've been doing this for 35 years. I've never had to send a family away. Say, please take the weekend off or go on a staycation for 3 days and have 25 sets of real estate agents and couples come through the house.
Andre Xavier, taking full advantage of that 100% meal tax write-off, Jerry. That's exactly right. I started the company because I was a foodie, and I wanted to write off the receipts. Now, it's part of work, and we get paid to go out. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
How is his new venture coming along?
We're going to talk about it in May.
Okay.
It's Patch Brewery. Patch Brewery, more to come from Andre on the I Love CVille show in May. But he's going to have, in fact, I'm going to read verbatim what Mr. Andre Xavier, the serial entrepreneur, has sent me about Patch Brewery. That way I don't miss anything myself. So, Patch is going to be in Gordonsville. It's going to be next to the Ice House, which is Craig Hartman and Hunter Smith's endeavor. Patch will have beer, cider, and wine. It will be an events venue. There will be a baseball field there. It's going to be family-friendly, focused, approachable, creating new jobs, and being one of the... I think one of the most positive focal points of eastern Albemarle County in that Gordonsville market.
Oh, I love Gordonsville.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that's literally right around the corner from where I live, like 14 minutes.
There you go. And
Andre, is that the closest, will that be the closest brewery to where I live? If you could put that in the feed, that would be fantastic. I think that is going to be the closest brewery to where I live. Patch Brewery is going to be the newest one to Central Virginia.
It's outstanding. And just the effort, anything he puts his fingers on, frankly, is a super success, and it's just a great family, and I'm looking forward to going out there, grabbing a little beer, maybe stop by and see Neil over at Well Hung, get a glass of wine, and then wrap it up with a little bit of barbecue at Barbecue Exchange. Barbecue Exchange.
Santos Benjamin Lopez Matos loves what we're talking about. What's up, Santos?
So somebody throw a question in the feed. See if real estate questions. See if we can kind of open up this conversation a little bit. I love
How's the 10-year Treasury yield, and it's increased the highest in 14 months, going to impact the real estate market?
That's a great question for the feed, and something
question
we should
for you, the
something
professional.
we should tackle on that. So it's a great question. As we know, the T-bill, as we refer to it, impacts interest rates.
Yeah.
The government also buying back all these mortgage-backed securities also kind of is keeping that number a little bit in check. But what it's ultimately going to mean is we're going to be going above 2-something, 3-something as far as interest rates go. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. We've been talking about this for quite some time on the show, where my biggest fear was that this ridiculously low interest rate was going to be perceived as the norm. And it's not the norm, right? The norm is, as you know, somewhere between 3 to 6%, depending on the particular year. But, we're not seeing any impacts on the market, at least from our perspective at this point. The impact, frankly, is the lack of inventory, lack of a plethora or a wide selection of homes or townhomes or condos or even rentals at this point for a healthy housing system for everybody to be able to live in a home. And we're going to tackle some of that subject on Friday, which I'm excited about.
Madison Smith, my friend, a fantastic comment from Maddie Smith. I will get to that in a matter of moments.
Thank you, Maddie.
Maddie, I love when you watch our shows and share your thoughts and perspective. Your intelligence speaks for itself.
We might be related.
You make us better. Maddie Smith is A-plus people. Andre says the closest brewery with outdoor space, yes. 14 acres, walking trails, beer, wine, cider, event space. Patch Brewery, Gordonsville, Eastern Albemarle County is salivating for this as well. This is from Maddie Smith. Maddie, I'm literally giving you some props right now while talking to Keith Smith and relaying this question to him. do I need to get a survey done on the property for the new home we are purchasing? What is it used for?
This is why I love this show, and this is what I was hoping for.
I'll offer some background.
Do you see the grin?
I do.
Yeah.
And Maddie, if I'm speaking out of turn, let me know.
This is a perfect subject.
She's a friend.
Yeah.
Had a fantastic townhome across from Willoughby, and those great townhomes right there.
Sure.
Across from Willoughby. Had a multiple offer situation.
Sure.
Sold the house with the opportunity to rent back for a little bit. Found and used that rent back period to find a new one. It looks like she did find a new one. Congratulations to you and Cody and the boys. And now Maddie she says, do I need to get a survey done on the property for the new home we are purchasing? If so, what is it used for? Also, I'll ask this question, roughly how much do they cost?
Oh, man. This is a great topic. This is a question that we get asked all the time. So I'm gonna ask a question back because my answer is gonna kind of depend on Maddie's reply. Is this acreage? Are you buying a home with a lot of acreage on it, or are you buying a home, let's say, in a subdivision, which is an important question on the path forward, because there's two different paths if you're buying a home in the middle of 5 acres or 2 acres or 20 acres. So it really makes...
Also, is there an easement on the property?
Well, so
that's a good question.
So this is why the surveys are so important. And not to geek out because I'm getting all excited about surveys, but they come in different flavors, right? So the best survey that you can get is what's called a physical survey. And a physical survey, hence the name, actually physically notes everything on the property. So it physically notes the corners, or what we call the meets and bounds, right? And all properties aren't square, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever the geometric shapes of that is, setbacks, any existing structures, and more importantly, any easements. You can just get a regular survey that would just locate the corners of the property. But the size of the property is super important because it relates in cost, right? So if we're doing a home that's in the middle of 25 acres, that survey is many, many, many thousands of dollars. If you are getting a survey in Belmont...
Ooh, we got more information from her.
Cool.
It's an HOA, a subdivision. We want to put up a fence for our dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Then she's also asking what an easement is. I can answer that. Know that firsthand. I'll give an example. HOA, fence with the dog. My family and I just did that as well.
And you needed to get approval.
What's that?
Did you have to get approval?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very clear approval process. Because the last thing you want to do is put up the fence. And, dude, I am one of the guys, my wife will attest to this, I don't like to follow the rules.
Really?
I'm a libertarian at heart, and I don't want people telling me what to do. But the last thing you want to do is to put up a fence, and fences can cost thousands of dollars. In fact, ours was...
Yeah, get it.
It's a 6-foot aluminum fence.
Got it.
That went half an acre.
Good for you.
Okay, that's not... Okay, and if you put that up without approval, they legitimately, in the HOA bylaws, can tear it down.
So in that particular case... I guess the question is, you haven't closed yet on the house. So if you haven't closed on the house...
Maddie, have you closed on the house yet? That's a good question.
If you haven't closed on the house, I always recommend to our clients to get a physical survey. We try to negotiate it so the seller pays for that. But in today's market, that's probably not the case. But you always want to know what you're buying, right? Has somebody's fence encroached on my property, right? Or has somebody put a driveway on my property? I'll tell you an actual story.
She also wants to know what an easement is.
I wrote it down. I'll get to it in a minute. True story. Lake Monticello.
Okay.
1989.
This is you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I was about ready to build a house.
Okay.
And we went and got the survey.
Okay.
The house next door was built on half lots. Nobody knew it.
Was built on?
Half of it was on the lot it was supposed to be on, and the other half was on the other lot.
That they did not own.
That they did not oown.
Yikes.
And so this was back.
How does that happen?
Well, this was back in the Wild West days, or the Wild East days, actually, since it's east of here. And they were, at the time, Lake Monticello and the county didn't require surveys for building permits.
What?
Yeah. My first true story.
How does that work?
It just was different. It was different. My first house I built in 1987. I went to, and I'll leave names out of it because God rest his soul, he's passed on. But the building inspector for Fluvanna County, and I'm showing in. I'm just out of the Marine Corps. I'm trying to play all the rules. I show up with a full set of plans and blah 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 blah, and the gentleman looks at me and looks at this and goes, "What are these?" And I went, "Sir, they're the plans, and I've got the survey, and I've got everything ready, and I'm thinking I'm ready to go." He goes, "Man, we usually get these on the back of a napkin," and this was 1987. Different world back then.
So what'd you do with the house that was built on someone else's lot?
Oh, you pick up the phone and you call a lawyer. That's what you do.
And then what happens then?
Yeah. So what happened then was my client needed it ultimately sold the lot. We had to go find him another lot. Now, keep in mind, in 1988, out of 4,500 lots at Lake Monticello, there was only 600 houses. So there was enough lots to pick from. I got involved in it, helped them negotiate it. They ended up buying the lots.
The people that had their house built on the wrong lot had to do that.
Yeah, well.
Or else what happened?
It ended up in court for 100 years.
Right.
But ultimately, that's what they did. True story.
And at that point, the lots were a lot more affordable than they are. Well, there are no lots now.
There are no lots now. They were, I think at the time was,
$10K?
Yeah, under $10K.
Yeah.
$5,000, $6,000, $8,000.
What's that today's money?
Well, you can't touch a lot at Lake Monticello. I think right now, first of all,
there are no lots, right?
Well, there are.
Buildable lots? Right.
Anything could be built on. Yeah. It's just a matter of how much.
But there's a reason why these lots haven't been built on.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's a matter of how much money you wish to spend. But, lots going now for, non-golf course, non-waterfront, $25,000 plus or minus, maybe $30,000, somewhere in that price range. Waterfront lots are, if you can find one. I mean, people over there are starting to buy houses and tear them down and redo it. But let's try to help unpack that question a little bit, please.
So, Maddie, are you under contract or you've closed? I'll ask her that. Yeah.
And I got to be a little careful because I'm sure she's working with a real estate agent, so I don't want to give advice.
You asked for the questions.
I asked for the questions. God, I love you.
You love this show.
I do. I love doing
it. It can
this.
go anywhere.
That's
what you love about it.
That's why I love it.
Yeah. And that's what you're good at.
Well, I don't know about that.
Not everyone can do that. Yeah. You know that, right?
Yeah, well, as my...
Most people like scripts and what to prepare. You know what I'm saying?
My, God rest her soul, my grandmother, who was an immigrant from Ireland, said, "Keithy, me boy, when they vaccinated you, they use a phonograph needle instead of a hypodermic needle. Shut the bleep up." And then go get me a beer. Okay, yes, Grandma. But so those who know, a phonograph used to be these things that you put a needle on it, goes around like that. She actually used the word Victrola, to be honest with you.
Are you going to answer Maddie's question?
No, I'm not going to ask Maddie's question. No.
Can you tell two dudes with ADHD right here?
Yay, go team. But
under contract.
Okay,
under contract.
Got it. So that was I was stalling, waiting for that answer. So that directed me a little bit here. So it's a little too late to ask for the seller to do that, I would suspect, at this particular point in time. Always worth your while to get a physical survey. Actually, if I was representing you and Mrs. Miller to buy something and you said, "No, I don't want one," I'd actually make you sign an affidavit saying that
you told us to do it.
Told you
and
to
you
do
passed
it,
on it.
And you passed on to do that.
Right.
All right? Because you always want to know what the heck you're buying. Now, the exception to that is I'm buying a large tract of land. It's a little bit different, a little bit more expensive, but particularly in a development or city environment, you absolutely want to do that. So easements.
I'm going to throw this out here. And the deals I've done.
Don't tell me you've not gotten surveys.
The surveys have come from the seller.
Yeah, well, so
And then you then verify the survey.
that's assuming they have one.
Yeah. I mean, the ones I've done, I've insisted upon that.
Yeah, sure. But something may have changed, right? You have to, when you get that survey, you have to take a look at it. If it's 6 months
Well,
old.
the timestamp, of course.
If
Or
it's-
if it's like 40.
If
Yeah.
it's absolutely right. And then you're 100% right. You look at that's why a physical survey, you know, us.
It's a
you know,
timestamp.
Well, you look at a picture and you look at the lot and you go, hold it, that shed isn't showing up on this physical survey. Then you know, and this is a common thing, right? Sometimes sheds will be put in building setbacks that don't belong. You're smiling.
She says, answer the damn question.
Is she really?
Yeah, literally said, answer the damn question.
Maddie, we're trying to stretch out an hour here. Give me a break, will you?
All right, I'll stop talking.
No. So the question is, get yourself a damn survey.
Right,
All right.
Fence, backyard dog.
Pardon?
It's fence, backyard dog, HOA. That's why.
Yeah. So look, I would get a full physical survey. For a fence, you don't need a full physical survey. You just need your 4 corners or 5 corners or 6 corners located because you're spot on, right? You don't want to put your fence on somebody else's property. But more importantly, you want to make sure your fence isn't on my property. Right? Or
And some of the HOAs have language where the fence can't even be within a certain feet of somebody else's property.
that's correct. Yeah, it's very specific on what the HOA. So, I mean, that's a show into itself.
Yeah,
Right.
bylaws.
Well, covenants and restrictions and HOAs and
Yeah.
bylaws and rules and regulations, and we could talk several days about that. But I think Maddie wants me to answer the easement question.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's,
one too.
I think
and
that's
the cost of survey.
yeah. So the cost can be all over the map, and that's the reason I'm stalling a little bit on that and trying to get a little mental picture of where Maddie physically is without her telling us, because we don't want her to do that.
Yeah.
But in a subdivision such, and I'll just use Lake Monticello since we've been talking about it, is somewhere around $800 a physical survey. The larger the land,
Right.
the more expensive.
So what's the 4 corners survey called? Is what she said.
Just a 4 corners.
4 corners?
Yeah,
And then she says, is the 4 corners survey, it's more affordable than entire property
Yeah,
survey.
so it's probably half the number. Okay. But, look, at the end of the day...
She was quoted $650.
Okay, that's not... For a physical survey or 4 corners?
The survey in totality for your property, Maddie, or the 4 corners?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that's probably for the survey in totality at $650.
Again, it depends on size, right? And where, and not to geek out so much, but do they have good control points, and do they have to follow it up, right? So if it's a 2-acre lot on Route 53, right, that there is no tie-ins, because that's what they're going to need to do, to tie it in. But to me, I put this on par of owner's title insurance. Best $400, $500, $600 you'll ever spend.
Right. Peace of mind.
Well, it's just the best money you're going to spend. Easement question. So an easement, and again, since we just started talking about Lake Monticello, it's just on the top of mind at the moment. So for instance, the Lake Monticello, or if you are buying a 100 by 150 lot, around a 10-foot perimeter around that lot is a utility easement. So every single utility company has the right to go in there. They have to notify it, but they have the right to go in there and run water, run sewer, run phone, run cable, run electric around each one of the lots. The other easements, depending on where you're located, could be a driveway easement.
The driveway easements are the ones.
Which is
yeah.
a big
It's a
thing.
big deal.
That's a big
You
thing.
should explain this.
Well, it depends on the environment.
Like 2 properties sharing the same driveway.
Correct.
And that driveway happens to be on the land of property A, but the owner of property B uses the driveway on property A.
Or
They share the driveway, and they have to share the costs.
the property line goes right down the middle of the driveway.
Right.
And
That could be sticky.
it is and it isn't. These are things that your real estate agent will help you through the process in the beginning of it. You should know all that long before you put an offer and get under contract. And then there should be a recorded maintenance agreement on that, right? Where both parties at some point agreed, this is how we're going to maintain this. This is how we're going to take care of this, right? And it's recorded and it conveys out, and you either accept it as it is, or you don't, because what you would do is if you and I are sharing this driveway and Judah buys our house, he then assumes our liability or assumes our responsibility. That's
Maintenance.
That's why it's so important to do that. In some larger private road subdivisions, there's whole roads that are private that everybody has to do it. We just smile.
Jamie Schwartz loves your vest. She says you're
Jamie.
looking sharp.
Thank you. No.
You are looking sharp. I like
you.
your matching. Looking sharp.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Smith laid it out pretty nice.
She did a hell of a job.
No, I do my own
I know you
picking
do.
out.
Jamie Schwartz says, good life tip. Don't go putting your fence on someone else's property, Karen.
Tip number 1. There you go. Well, we're writing tips down.
Ray Cadell's watching the broadcast. We love when you watch. Ray, and you survey every time, period. The one from the seller is not good enough for me, ever.
Yeah.
Plus, all surveyors are not of the same talent.
Ooh, well, I'm not going to.
Oh, hey, Jamie Turner. We'll relay this on air as well. This is a hot topic right now. Show's yours. I'll read this and throw it to you. You were going to say something, right?
Yeah, but the attention deficit syndrome kicked in.
I'm not helping.
You're not helping.
I know. I got to stop.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Okay, go ahead. So,
people want to know more about the easements.
Yeah. So, but they come in multiple flavors, right? And, one could put an easement on their property for anything, frankly. But typically, they're utilities, right? Or site easements. That's if you're buying a piece of property out in the county, site easements are huge. So what site easements are, so when you're going to put in a driveway, VDOT could come in and say, we're going to carve off a piece of your property. So even though it's not part of the road, what they call the right of way, right? ROW. That's so if you go up and down 53, I think it's 50 feet wide if I remember correctly, from right of way to right of way. But sometimes they put these side easements on, so when you come in and out of your driveway, you can see the oncoming traffic, and you're responsible to maintain that and all that fun stuff.
Jamie Turner, are you ready for this one?
I am.
Got an interesting one for you all related to this.
Okay, cool. Got my pen. I'm ready to go.
This is a little longer one.
Got it.
Okay. I was going to buy an investment in Gordonsville. The house I was buying was built on the neighbor's land. Ooh. It was literally split down the middle. One half of the house on the neighbor's land, the other half on the land I was purchasing. The previous buyer who backed out ordered a survey, and it revealed this.
Okay.
The owner of the adjacent land wanted an absurd amount for his property, so I walked instead of getting into a bad legal situation. Have you all ever encountered something like this? Yes, Keith Smith has. She just tuned in Lake Monticello.
Yeah. So
she just tuned in.
Got it. Yeah. We just talked about that. We had in 1987 or 88, I think it was, we had a situation similar to that at Lake Monticello. Exact scenario. House was built on it. And I would assume in the Gordonsville area, you could, in a case like that, if you got enough property and everybody can come to terms with it, then you can just basically do an interesting term for a survey. It's called a boundary adjustment. So you can actually do that. You can do a boundary line adjustment, which is a form of a survey and what was the...
Jamie Turner. Jamie Turner works for KPMG. And is buying investment property. Jamie Turner, this was a damn good question.
So what Jamie was trying to do, I'm just...
Gentlemen,
I apologize.
Senior Associate Consultant at KPMG, a graduate of Hampton-Sydney College, lives in Fairfax, Virginia, but is from Gordonsville, engaged to the beautiful Chelsea Colvin, watching in Fairfax right now.
So Jamie, I apologize, but so what Jamie was trying to do was... I'm assuming here, was to acquire enough land, and then they would have done a boundary line adjustment. And if they couldn't come to terms, which they couldn't, they just walked. The real estate agent that was listing that house now has a real problem on their hands, and they need to fix that.
Because the house is potentially not sellable.
Well, you won't get clear title.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Period.
So I'm going to throw a hypothetical to you.
Unless you're doing cash, which would be silly. But,
right. That would be silly to do.
Well, Ray Cadell is 100% right. We've just outlined 2 examples in how many minutes? 10 minutes? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
two examples where a physical survey made all the difference in the world. And if you would have bought that home, if Jamie would have bought that home without the physical survey, he inherited the problem. $800, $1,000, depending on the parcel, right?
Well, if they had bought the home,
it would have never gone through
right.
title.
That's what I'm saying. If you had title insurance, it would have never gone through, right?
Well, yeah. So what'll happen?
The title insurance would have superseded the fact that there was no survey.
No. So this is
that not?
No. So this is a Bill Tucker conversation and a Katie West conversation to bring in one of our awesome sponsors.
Yeah.
In here. So when you get a title so here's the other reason why you want a physical survey. When you get a title policy, and if Ray's still watching,
is still watching.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Ray. Right? Because he's a pro. He's been doing this a lot longer than I have. If you don't have a physical survey, there's going to be things called exceptions in the title policy.
Go ahead.
And in those exceptions, it's going to say, we're not responsible because you didn't get a survey. The language escapes me, but there's exceptions that would get put in there. So if all of a sudden, if this is accepted out and you accept this and you buy the house and you move forward, and I'll go back to HOAs where this ties in a little bit with that. You just inherited that because the title company is going to go, no. I've accepted this from our policy. That's on you. Good luck. Right? Get a survey, guys. It's an absolute must. I disagree a little bit with Ray, and I do that very rarely. If the seller hires a surveyor and it's one of that you're comfortable with, right, and you come back with a stamped document, then that's good. If it comes from the seller, it's just as good as if you were to hire them to go and do it.
Okay. Just I learn from you. If you're buying a home, ask that in your negotiations.
Oh yeah, sure.
Update the survey for us.
But
because it's going to save you $500 to a G depending on the land.
Yeah, but in today's environment, right? We're seeing offers with people pulling out home inspections.
You're seeing people saying we don't need a home inspection. We want to buy the home no matter what, and we'll pay over asking price and make up the difference with cash out of our pocket.
And
that's what you're saying.
And that scares me.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
It frightens me, to be honest with you. And so my point I'm trying to make is in today's basically seller's market, you would have to have a conversation, and I'm sure Ray does this. Excuse me, because I know we do it. Look, we recommend you getting a survey. It's going to cost you probably this amount of money.
$500 to $1,000, depending on the property.
Or $1,200. It depends on the property, right? Or whatever it is. And if it's something in a subdivision that we've done this before, we've got a database that we could say this is about the range. But if it's a large tract of land, we're going to research that before we put our offer in, because the buyer needs to do that. Now, each buying and selling circumstance is very different, but for instance, today's hot market, you've got to budget that in.
Cody, watching the program. Cody, good night. That is what happened. We offered $50,000 over without a home inspection, and we still lost the property.
Yeah, you did yourself a favor.
50 G's over with no home inspection and still lost the property.
Yeah. If you're going to, I'm giving advice to anybody who would talk to us, whoever's watching here. I get it. I understand the urge to do that. At least do a pass and fail scenario if you can get that in.
What's the pass and fail scenario?
So in other words, if you find something substantially wrong with the home, you've got the opportunity to terminate it, right? It's that way. But you again, I don't know the home or know whatever, but just to paint a scenario, you could pay $50,000 over it, pull out the home inspection, get in the house and find out there's a structural problem with the house, right? Or find out. I'm not talking about things on the wall. I'm not talking
foundation
about
issues.
Or
mold.
Well,
yeah, foundation.
Or fuzzy white stuff or something.
Yeah.
Right.
We never want fuzzy white stuff.
Well, anything
and
fuzzy.
if you have fuzzy white stuff, who do you call?
Interstate Pest and Service
Intrastate
Company.
Pest and Service Company. So the
Well
fuzzy
done.
white stuff.
Well done, sir. Well done. Well done. If it's fuzzy and it's white and it's not insulation, you better call somebody. Insulation. Insulation could be fuzzy and white, but if it's anything other than that, or fuzzy anything stuck to anything other than insulation, you need to get it looked at.
Mr. Ray Cadell, ask the families whose ancestors are now buried in my backyard and they didn't think so previously.
Well, he's got to explain that one. I've lost that one.
I would imagine what he's saying is the property he owns, and Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, has family buried in the backyard.
No, so that's a great point.
Okay.
So an easement would be a gravesite.
Oh, that's where he's going here.
That's where he's going with that.
Okay. Walk me through that.
That's an interesting comment. In the development world, we come across this all the time. You could come across it in buying Ray's place, apparently, and, there's an answer.
Swimming pool, Albemarle County, Earlysville, a man with a trumpet and some brown liquor smoking meats and serenading the neighborhood. Who wouldn't want that property?
With his chest hairs hanging out.
With his chest hairs hanging out. And a bathrobe on. Who would not want that property? I want that property right now. That's all you have to put in the MLS listing notes. Right there. That home sells.
I think all you got to do is take a 30-second clip of his
show
and say, here you go.
And it sells for $50K over list.
Or he has to pay $50,000 for somebody. But the gravesite's an interesting comment to talk a little bit about. Because not that this would happen because we're the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee, right?
Tell me.
Damn Yankee stays, regular Yankee goes back. So we're damn Yankees. We've stayed for a few decades. But let's say you're buying a piece of property that's been owned by a family for a couple hundred years, right? And there's an ancestral family gravesite on there, and it's designated and it's defined on the site plan or on the physical survey. You have to grant access to any family member to that gravesite, period. And there's generally an easement.
Get out of town.
Sure.
Okay, run that by.
I
just learned something. Seriously.
So, developed Fluvanna County, a subdivision by the name of Taylor Ridge Estates. On Taylor Ridge Estates, it was been in a family for a bunch of years, and there was an ancestral gravesite on there. And so in our designing and our approvals process on that, we needed to put a easement around the four corners of that and have an easement out to a public right-of-way. So if any of the Taylor family ever wanted to come visit their relatives, they have to have the right. They must have the right to do that.
So it's separate access point from the driveway?
Correct, yeah.
So it's essentially another driveway strictly for the graveyard?
No, it could be a footpath. There has to be some form of access.
How common is this?
Oh, it's quite common out in the country. Actually, very common out in the country, right? You're thinking city environment, but out in Fluvanna, we visit this all the time out in Fluvanna, Albemarle, all the surrounding rural counties. It doesn't happen on a daily occasion, but it happens quite often, over the course of 3 decades, quite a bit actually. And, that's where this physical survey comes in play, right? So if you don't know that's on your 20 acres you just bought and you put a house in the middle of it and Keith Smith is wandering on your property to go see my relatives who are buried on your, resting in peace on your property, what are you doing on my land? Well, hold on, I've got rights to go do that.
Ray says, you always say Earlysville, Jerry. It's actually Carsbrook. So I make that correction. Carsbrook, not Earlysville. And he says...
no comment about the chest hair?
No, he likes the chest hair comment. He says, gravesite access is protected by federal easements.
That's exactly right. That's a non-negotiable thing, period. End of story. You must grant access. As a matter of fact, if you drive around staying on Lake Monticello, if you should go back to Lake Monticello and drive over the main dam, looking to the left or right, depending on which way you're going, let's say on the opposite side of the water, down there is a gravesite that dates back I think in the 1700s.
Mustache Dan Pettit watching the program's got phenomenal tennis strokes. Mustache Dan Pettit does. He says, "When
Well, the question is who has the better mustache?"
Mustache Dan Pettit. Have you ever seen a man play
Yeah,
tennis?
yeah,
Man can play tennis.
I've seen him play.
He can play tennis.
I've seen him play, and I've seen him wipe the court with some younger fellers than his age.
He says, "When I marketed Walnut Hill subdivision, we had a bend in the road because of a gravesite."
Yep, sure. Happens all the time. You literally have to lay out your subdivision around that. But again, you know, in a scenario where you might be buying a 2-acre lot with a house on it, I'm just painting a scenario, and there happens to be either a portion of or fully amount of a gravesite on that. You know, A, you have to provide access. B, it's unbuildable. You can never put anything on that. Again, it's super important to get a physical survey. That's why I love this show. It's amazing that we just went off on that.
On Twitter from Arrington in Nelson County, sounds like you guys should do a show on easements.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do it. Well, I think the easement HOA coverage and restriction is kind of all wrapped into one, and that really should be a panel discussion. We'll bring in some
Katie West,
Bill
Tucker,
a couple other folks to go ahead and talk a little bit. A surveyor maybe, actually, a surveyor. Katie West, that kind of thing. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And Ray adds, "I like my surveys to be done by my hand-picked people."
Yeah, cool. And I get it. You know, it's the same thing when he helps his client get through a home inspection item. He has his people that he feels comfortable. That's just contractor 101 or general contracting, Class A contracting 101. You want to hire the guy that you know, or gal or person that you know it's going to get the job done.
Via Twitter, Stephen, I'm going to butcher your last name. I'm going to call you Stephen R.
Stephen what?
R, because I'm sorry, Stephen. I would rather say Stephen R than mess your last name up, sir. What are we supposed to do when we're losing offers left and right, and we're having to pay $30,000 to $50,000 out of pocket, out of our own money, to purchase homes in today's market?
Man,
we need a place to live.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, and we talked about that on Friday with Mrs. Smith. Not that I'm going to try to get to answering the question here, but that frustration and stress is the seller's also experiencing that. We need to kind of put them into this conversation a little bit, and I'm sure they have a great realtor helping them through this process. First thing is make sure you get pre-qualified, right? Pre-qualification. Sit down with a Scott Morris, right, or whatever lender that you're comfortable with, and get pre-qualified. As a matter of fact, I'd get pre-approved if I can do it.
Yeah. There's
a big difference between the two, right? Pre-approved is just a Social Security number. Pre-qualified is just a Social Security number.
Yeah, it's like a term sheet.
It's like a term. What we know in the commercial world as a term sheet, but they've vetted you through a little bit more.
Right.
It carries a little bit more weight to do that. You know, depending on your cash position, right? It's a difficult thing right now when interest rates so low. We talked about the T-bill going up, but still, it's
10-year.
You know. It's under 4%.
Right.
It's free, in my opinion.
It's cheap money. It's not free money. It's cheap, super cheap money.
Well, compared to 18%.
And literally, Mustache Dan Pettit just said mine was 18%.
Yeah.
You have memories of that as well.
Yeah. So compared to that, it's
1983, 16% interest rate on my home, Daniel.
Yeah, 87, I had 18%.
Yeah. So you guys remember when it was really serious.
But my point that I'm using is that some people are thinking, well, I'm going to try to get a 100% loan because maybe I'm a first-time home buyer. This is what I'm available, and I'm going to keep my cash in the bank or in my investment portfolio, wherever you've got it. You might want to reconsider that and try to put some of the cash towards the buy. It makes you look a little bit stronger. The second thing, which is very helpful, is try to put a healthy, good faith deposit down, right? If you're buying a I'm just picking a number, a $300,000 house, don't put $1,000 down on it. It just doesn't show the validity of the buyer, right? Even though it's an escrow, it sits in escrow. If the deal falls apart, you get it back. But you still got to stroke a check, and it still needs to clear. So if you can put a stronger good faith deposit down, it makes you look a little bit, you kind of could float up to the top a little bit on that. And then, what we do and Ray does, and I don't see the feeds. I don't know how many other realtors are on, but Dan, all these.
Your wife's on.
Mrs. Smith for sure. We spend a ton of time communicating with the selling agent, understanding what exactly is the motivation and the position of the seller. Now, we're not asking questions we shouldn't ask, but what we're trying to do is get ourselves educated as best as we can, so then we can talk to the buyer and say, okay, this is the situation. This is how we understand the situation, and this is what we think will give us the best chance of winning. But it's super frustrating. I mean, we have clients that are 10-1, 8-1.
What do you mean?
Putting in 10 offers before they get one. 6-1, 5-1, 4-1. Here's the key, though. Don't give up.
That's what Yonna just said.
Don't give up.
That's what your wife said. Love Yonna Smith on this program.
Don't
Stay
give
the
up.
course. Keep on moving forward. Reassess your priorities. Don't ever give up.
Just don't give up, because this.
And this is what Ray said. I want to clarify this so I get everything out there. Okay. I want my survey by my surveyor with my name on it. Do you really think a problem that comes up later with a survey passed on to you by the seller is going to give you much leverage? And that surveyor might be retired. It's happened here, gone, etc.
I love
There
Ray.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I just personally worked with all the surveyors over the decades, so if it's a surveyor that I know, then I'm good with it. That's just my personal opinion on it. But
again, via Twitter, it's the same sentiment.
How are we gonna win?
Yeah, it's the same sentiment. This one from John Hudson.
Yeah.
We have put 4 offers in for 4 different homes, and each time we've lost out to cash. We're willing to pay over asking, but how are we expected to pass on a home inspection and make up the difference with cash out of pocket?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's almost impossible to beat a cash deal. It's just hard to beat a cash deal. It's just hard. We've done it, actually. We've been successful in beating out cash deals recently, actually. It's because we've done our homework and we know what the motivation of the seller is, and we're trying to fit our offer within that motivation of the seller. But I'll tell you, our stance is pretty firm. Don't put an offer in without, a home inspection, at least for informational purposes only. Give you the option to terminate it. Now, you can shorten it. You can say, instead of 2 weeks, I want 1 week or whatever, to do that kind of thing. Because, from a seller's perspective, what they don't want to do is take the home off the market for an extended period of time.
Right.
Find out it falls apart and move on. But, it's a difficult dance, right? Because
if you put too many contingencies in there, they're going to bypass your offer.
Yeah, so we were talking about the contingency of, and to echo off of Ray's comment, you're just not going to ask a seller right now.
The seller has all the leverage.
Correct.
That's what you're basically saying.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, you have the leverage. If you're not comfortable with the home, you're not comfortable with the offer.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
How long have you been doing real estate? 30 years?
1987.
So it's 34 years. Have you seen in 34 years
No.
the seller having more leverage than right now?
No. I would say in the insanity of 04, 03, 05.
More leverage than they have now?
Yeah, but it was just...
Because 03 or 04, 05, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm in college in 03 or 04. Okay, I'm not doing that.
You sure you weren't in high school?
I was in college. In 03, 04, 05, there was a hell of a lot more inventory on the market.
Yes.
There was new construction on the market. We don't have that inventory options now.
No. I was just prepping for Friday's show. I was listening to a couple of podcasts and videos, actually from the UK, talking about this very subject of inventory. And we're pivoting a little bit. Oops, I used the 2020 word, sorry. We're adapting a little bit here on the fly. The reality of it is we are not '04, we are not '05. They meaning the builders, were building 2 million units a year. I read an interesting article. The number of units are actually decreasing in new construction. A lot of that has to do with cost of construction going up, but it's mostly going to be what we're going to hopefully talk about on Friday, if I can get some folks coming in here, is this red tape, right? And the zoning restrictions and the time that it takes to actually produce a home or produce property. So this constant pressure just isn't going away. Even if interest rates go up, it'll loosen things up a little bit. Maybe some people that it might kick them out of the market a little bit. The problem is they can't go lower. Okay, look, my interest rate just went up at 1 point. I'm picking a number. And
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I cannot believe I'm going to say this. The best thing that could potentially happen for this market is for these interest rates to uptick a couple of points.
Ooh, I think 2 points is a bit much.
If they uptick,
yeah, I don't disagree with you.
it takes a lot of buyers out of the market.
Yeah.
And if they take a lot of buyers out of the market, these 8 and 10 situation offers is going to dwindle down to.
So we're going to have
2, 3, 4.
we're going to have to bring in Scott live here.
We should. Yeah.
Because there's a little note, again, it just depends on what one's cash position is, right?
Uh-huh.
And we've talked about this. We as a nation have been saving more money during COVID than we ever have in the past.
Right. I mean, because Americans by nature don't save money.
But you can buy points down.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're willing.
Most people don't do that.
No, they do it when it's at 8%, 10, when it's at these bigger numbers. But they mostly don't do that. And it's
someone who's entering the market and it goes up a couple of points, they're not going to buy a couple of points to get it down back to 3.5.
No, because the math difference
doesn't make sense.
Spread over 30 years just doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
I tell people all the time, your best path forward is to double or triple your payments per year. That's where in my opinion, that's where the money needs to go. And what that does is that changes your 30-year down to 18-year down to 15-year mortgage. And what you're doing is you're paying yourself. So you're
creating a savings account.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you put the money in a bank account. Basically.
You're putting it into your home.
Yeah. Which is your account.
Which is your bank account.
Yeah.
At that particular.
That's what our good buddy J Dubs is doing. Right, J Dubs?
Because Jay's a smart dude.
J Dubs is a smart dude.
J Dubs is a nice. Forgot the Dubs end of it. Yeah, he's a smart guy. But yeah, so it's. If I had, we get this question that's been asked. How do I make this happen, right? And I'm sure every one of these folks that are asking this question have a trusted advisor, a realtor, helping them through this process. It is so important now to go ahead and navigate that through this particular process. And these particular buyers' individual circumstances are very different, I'm sure, from one to another and so forth and so on. But if you can streamline it, if you can minimize your contingencies, in my opinion, there's some non-negotiables. Home inspection happens to be one of them. You don't have to make a contract contingent on the survey. You're just going to have to budget in your cash that you're going to have to pay for one to go ahead and get one because you're going to need to do it. And as Mrs. Smith said, don't give up, guys. This is still at the interest rates that we are at right now, the best time to buy.
Tremendous opportunity.
And the best time to sell. It just got to be it's just going to take a ton of patience. And we were on a phone call with the young couple driving home last night at 9:30 at night, helping them through this process. This is when this is when this business, what we do, really becomes relational.
That's right.
Right? It's all about the relationship. It's all about trying to put that needle together, and
I would say the value proposition of a realtor has never been greater than right now.
without a doubt. Without a doubt. And that only goes to this will be a great thing to
start.
To start. And
It's
look
not
at.
going to take you to the finish line.
It's not going to take you to the
It'll
finish
get you on a marathon to maybe like the mile marker 3. And then the agent's going to take you the rest of, 26.2? You've done marathons.
Yeah.
So what is it, another 23.2? If the Zillow gets you to 3, the agent's going to take you 23.2. Cody, Kaysen, we knew our seller was building, so we offered them a rent back.
There you go.
And I think that is what finally set us up for success.
Yeah. So going back to, it was a Cody?
Good. Yeah, Cody Kaysen. Good comment, Cody.
Yeah, so thank you, Cody, for saying that.
Yeah.
You just put an example to the point I was trying to make.
Understanding circumstances.
Understanding the other side,
Yeah.
right? Understanding what it
What a good show.
Thank you. I just looked at our watch.
I know, right? It's flown by. It's amazing.
And I walked in here going, what are we going to talk about
All right.
today?
It's amazing. I feel the same, dude. Before you look at it, it's like, what?
I was like, oh, God.
It's so fun, isn't it?
How
Isn't it fun?
are we going to get through an hour?
Isn't it so fun?
I enjoy our time together. I really, 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 really do. And Yonna on the way in goes, well, because I'm not trying to make myself out big or
prep.
I'm not trying to pat my own back. But for today's show, I prepped probably about 8 or 9 hours.
What?
Yeah, I wanted to get it right. I love these people that had come in. I wanted to make sure I got it right. And as you aptly said, 2 dudes with attention deficit syndrome. If I don't take the time to prep for it, pew.
Mustache Day and Pettit. Yonna has taught you well.
Sensei. Grasshopper. I don't know. I think Mrs. I'm going to have to pat myself a little bit on the back here. I think Mrs. Smith will tell you I've taught her a little bit from.
Dude, you don't have to say that.
Yeah.
We all know. We all know, homie.
I'm giving Dan a hard time because Dan, God almighty, we've known Dan. Oh,
I've known Dan since I bought my first place in the Villas at Southern Ridge, and I walked into the sales office, and he was there with Rick Spagoni and Amanda Spagoni.
when Yonna was consulting for
So it was
this.
like 15, 16 years.
Dan
I've known
will put it in, but when Yonna was consulting for this Finnish company for U.S. and Canadian operations, Dan was, I believe at the time, doing like roadway or whatever trucking he was doing, and he was had her account or vice versa, or however that works on it. But yeah, so to go back, it was Cody, right?
Cody Kaysen.
To go back to Cody's comment, get to understand what the other side needs, and if you can give it to them.
1990, you've known Dan since.
Yeah, 1990. Wow.
Yeah. So Yonna said.
Go ahead and if you can provide it in this particular case, okay. What's important to the. I'm picking up the phone calling Jerry Miller, the other side. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about my client and what their needs are, without giving away anything I shouldn't, right? And so please tell me about your client, right? And, well, hey, they're building a house. Okay, the wheels are turning, right? Hey, whatever very pertinent information. And Cody did the right thing. Whoever guided her through this process said, okay, look, this is their concern. Can you do this? Can you do a lease back for 8 months or 9 months or however long it's taken to build a house? And they got the deal. And, some people can't do that. What are you smiling at?
No, I just enjoyed today's show. Roadway Express Manager.
Roadway Express, that's what it was.
Yeah, Roadway Express Manager.
I was close. I think I was close.
You're pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Especially for something since 1990. 31 years ago.
That's amazing for me.
Think about that.
I can't remember what I did 10 minutes ago.
But you remember that.
I remembered that.
Yeah.
That's a sign of something. I don't know.
No, that's a sign. That's a sign of you got things going in the right direction, pal.
Got things going in the right direction.
How about your Friday show?
Yeah, so I am super excited about it. It's gonna be out there, and
Dan says, when I met Yonna, I realized how smart she was. I'm concerned that the next comment is, Yonna, will you go on a date with me? When I met Yonna, I realized how smart she was, is what he said. It's true. She's brilliant.
She is. I'm just going to leave that comment alone. But she is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
But Dan's a bit of a pot stirrer. He likes to start a little bit of
He
trouble.
knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. He's trying to get my goat up a little bit.
And I think it's working.
Nah, I love
I'm
Dan.
just joking.
I love Dan to death. Yeah, so I'm trying to build a show around tearing down the zoning walls.
Ooh.
And this is a really difficult topic to talk about, and I'm trying to bring in some really
Where, in the county or the city? First question.
well, it would be more city driven
Okay.
for it on that end of it, but it's applicable across the board. I tried to bring in Neil, but Neil has a previous commitment and he can't join us. I think
Want to
he
get Rory?
No, actually, James Watson is one that's committed to it. This is his profession. But more importantly, and we have to talk after the air, he's going to call in from downtown San Francisco and do this.
Awesome.
And talk about, because he's literally working on this concept for his employment out there. So, but, we're just going to leave it at that. We've got a couple of videos. The premise of it is that zoning over the decades has created this walled off opportunity for what I call a healthy housing system. And why is that? And what can we do to fix it? And is there examples that it's getting fixed? So, and as you know, I promote this missing middle quite heavily, where the intent on the missing middle or this tweaking of the zoning ordinances where you can allow an ADU, auxiliary dwelling unit, or some other residential units on a single-family detached home, and that's the ability to very rapidly increase inventory without building large apartment complexes or condos or subdivisions in that. But it more affects the inner city, so or the 10 square miles we call Charlottesville at the point. It impacts some of the other jurisdictions, but in the rural, you got a little bit more room to grow. In the city in particular, you don't, right? And the 5% of the growth area of Albemarle County, which I would consider part of the city footprint, even though it's not technically the city, which is not 5% as we know, 2% or 3%.
I had a conversation about this yesterday with someone I won't name, someone of influence.
Yeah, sure.
And the comment that was made, until we can expand the 5% in Albemarle County, so only 5% of Albemarle County is designated for development, and of that 5%, it's not just residential. Commercial also fits in that 5%, guys. This particular person said, until we've efficiently utilized that 5% to its fullest capacity, we should not be having the conversation of increasing the 5%.
Well, that's going to require an in-depth analysis, and I'm not prepared to do that at this point.
Yeah. Right.
But at the end of the day, somebody needs to look at what's physically available, right? So if you've got 5% of something, right, and let's say half of it, just for argument's sake, is commercial, then you've got to look at, well, let me try it a different way.
Sure.
This is no different than the conversation we just had about Lake Monticello, right? So there may be 10% of the lots remaining that don't have homes on them, but out of that 10%, there's a huge percentage that are technically, you can build on anything, but are not buildable or too expensive to build on. So not only do you have the 5%, right? And then you carve off the commercial, then whatever's remaining, you have to look at that from a geographical configuration, right? You got to look at that from a topographical configuration. You got to look at that, where's the water, where's the sewer, where's the electric, where's the phone, and all these things start, taking a piece of property off the table.
Well said.
Right?
Nicely described.
Thank you. So that whatever remaining balance it is may not be buildable. And that 1%, 2%, 3%.
We should figure that out. How would we figure that out?
Yeah, I'll do some research. They may have already, Albemarle County may already have some assessment of that. And I know Neil's not watching today, but that's a great question for Neil. He may know that off the top of his head. But you have to, and again, just to equate it to Lake Monticello, because it's simple, right? It's 100 by 150 lots. You've got whatever number of lots. If you walk down the street and there's 5 empty lots, and you can say, that's not buildable, that's not buildable, that's not buildable, that's buildable, and then out of 5 lots, there's only 1 or whatever it is. So there's a large percentage of, or a percentage of this percentage, if that makes any sense, that may not ever be built on. And so when they draw this line, they do a relatively decent job of it, but they don't go in and spend it's a ton of time to assess, because that's what we do for a living, right? And assess it. So if Jerry Miller says, hey, I want to build an I Love Charlottesville, world-class studio somewhere in that 5%, we're going to start looking at land for you and say, okay, well, this works because it got the parking, it doesn't have the parking, or this works, and that percentage just whittles down quite quickly. Makes sense?
That was a great description.
Yonna was telling me on the way home on Friday, she actually stole my aircraft carrier analogy.
Yeah.
Right, which was pretty cool. I was flattered that she did that. What is that? Plagiarism is the form.
Yeah.
What is that? How's that saying go?
It's a serious form of flattery.
Plagiarism?
I don't think imitation.
Imitation.
Yeah, imitation is a serious form of flattery.
Imitation. I was flattered. However that works out, I was flattered.
Those aren't the same, though, Judah. Imitation and plagiarism.
No, it's not.
Plagiarism more is on the bad end of imitation.
I think
is it not?
I believe that's illegal.
Yeah, I believe that's illegal, right? Are you going to do the analogy so we know what you're talking about? I mean, we know what you're talking about, but for
I don't know.
else,
I'm afraid.
Don't mess it up.
I'm about ready to get myself into more trouble. I think I just crossed the line, so I'm a little worried about that. No, so I think I know the topic was about. We were asked the question repetitively: is the market going to change soon? Right? Is this struggle, or is this current market, whatever right, wrong, or indifferent that we're in, is going to change soon? And I equated it to a large nuclear aircraft carrier that's at full throttle, right? And even if you take that and put it in zero, in neutral, that aircraft carrier is going to take miles and miles and miles before it stops. And oh, by the way, it's never going to stop because the current is going to move it, right? So we may get more of an equal level market, which we talk about this all the time. That's what we want. I know that's what I want. I know that's what Yonna wants. We want a more balanced market.
Yeah.
That's good for everybody.
Yeah.
The stress on sellers is not good and healthy. The stress on buyers is not good and healthy. Balance is much better. But at this current, unless we increase inventory, I don't see this changing
Anytime soon. Yeah. We're in this situation for how long do you think?
Continued on the forward? Oh, well.
12, 18 months?
If I knew that,
Well, I mean, the building permits.
Yeah, I know the development side of
Yeah.
it.
The building permits are one indicator of more inventory.
Well, I'm not even looking at building permits. I'm looking at site plan approvals or
Okay.
rezoning applications.
There you go. So you're even going further down the road.
Well, that's the one you really need to be looking at. Once it gets building permits, then it's a little, it's already in process. The front end of it, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, is years.
Jeez.
Years. I mean, I tell this story all the time.
Fluvanna, Nelson, Green, Waynesboro, Orange, you guys are about to go red hot. Red hot.
Well, I can't divulge too much.
Right.
But they're out there. It's going.
It's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, it's happening. There are projects in the pipeline that will, 24, 36 months from now, will start hitting the market in a big way. But what do we do between now and then? That's the reason why I want to talk on Friday about this missing middle and these zoning walls I actually invited Michael Payne. Hopefully he'll come. I think this is right.
As long as it's only
I-
zoning talk, we can do it.
I promised him.
Yeah, that's all it would be.
That's all
We'd
it
keep
would-
our word.
I promised
Yeah.
him that's all I would talk about on that end of it. And he and I have a pretty good working relationship.
do.
And he knows if I say that, that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I'm trying to get that dialogue going because to me that's a solution, a possible. It's to quote our dear friend Robert Liberty out in Portland, Oregon. It's not a silver bullet; it's a silver buckshot. So this concept is one or two pellets of that. It takes much more to do it, but it's something. It's something that Mr. Payne and the rest of the city councilors is a tool available to them now. They can do that relatively quickly. Now, is the political will there to do it? So forth and so on. That's a different conversation. But what I'm trying to do on Friday is start bringing the experts to the table and try to get information out there. But if we can increase the density a little bit without going with these huge with a rezoning project, it's working in these western states, and things typically like this, by the way, come from the west to the east. Bad news, good news, always in the housing industry. I can never figure out why, but the last time this came down back in 08, 07, 08, 09, it always starts west and works its way east. Never figured out why, but that's the way it goes.
Great show, my friend.
Ooh.
It was fun.
I enjoy the heck out of these. I
Same.
really do. I love the round tables. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work.
Sometimes just shooting at the hip.
Oh man, just two dudes having a cup of coffee.
I enjoyed it today. Yes Realty Partners, Yes Team Realtors, Keith and Yonna Smith, and the team at Yes Realty Partners. You see what they're all about. The source of the source, as honest gets. I think that's how I would describe the Smiths. As honest gets. Judah Wickhauer is the director. Without him, we are lost. This is Real Talk. It airs Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 on the I Love CVille Network. Mark your calendar for Friday. Should be a dynamic show, guys. Have a good morning. Take care.